Hello and welcome. I am Jessica Loper here for your bi-weekly video on staying in the flow and on track with your goals. So really what I feel like this means is becoming someone you are proud of and creating the life that you want. Who do you want to be? How do you want to live your life? If you don't have any goals, I would highly recommend you start out by taking some time to think about what is it that you really want? What do you really want? Something that has helped me to really tap into that is thinking about what would you want if it didn't affect anyone or if you didn't have any outside opinions, right? Like if it didn't matter, what anyone else thought, what would you really want when you get real honest with yourself? So that may be something you could journal about if you haven't already tapped into that deep of a level of understanding what it is you want. Once you do that, it's probably going to be easier to set some goals because from there, you can ask yourself what needs to change, what do you need to work on. And that's something that's just helped me. You could also envision what you're like in that situation or in that scenario. And this isn't necessarily all materialistic, right? It's also about how you feel. How do you want to feel on a daily basis? What brings you joy? So I think it really can be a combination of the not just the material things, but also um, how you feel. Does that make sense? All right. Well, we can dive into that more deeply on a different video. But for today, what is really coming to me to share is the outside distraction of what other people are doing. Sometimes we get pulled away from our own goals and our own process. Because we're looking at what other people are doing. Now we can look to other people for inspiration and motivation. It gets us pumped up. Anytime you even have like that twinge of jealousy, like just take a step back and ask yourself, well, do they have something I want? Is there something I'm not doing to be true to myself? Or am I not living in a way that is aligning me with what they have or what they're experiencing? I don't think jealousy is always a bad thing as long as you can kind of step back and have that awareness of where it's coming from, right? Just observing the jealousy instead of um, obsessing over it or gossiping about it or whatever it is. Like instead, can you take a step back and just observe and acknowledge and look at it as something that is helping you to really notice and understand what it is that maybe you want, or maybe there's something you're not being honest with yourself about what you want. And this kind of comes back to what I said at the beginning of what is it that you really want if you're completely honest with yourself. Because sometimes we let that outside conditioning and patterning get to us as well about what's possible for us or what we should or shouldn't want, what society tells us we should want, or what we should want by a certain age or because of our gender, whatever it is. Okay, so aside from jealousy, that's just one example of outside influences. There could also be people in your life that aren't changing, right? And you kind of look at them, maybe they don't have goals or don't appear to be changing. And either A, they do have goals and they are changing, you just don't see it because it's not something that is noticeable, right? Sometimes people are working on things and growing and we just don't see it. Um, have you walked a mile in their shoes, right? Do you really know what they're going through or how far they've come? So sometimes it can appear that someone isn't changing or growing or setting goals, but they just may be changing or growing in a way that you don't see. It could be an internal battle. They could be challenged with their beliefs. Maybe it honestly is just hard for them to get up and moving. You don't always know. You don't always know why someone's going through what they're going through. Or B, maybe it is someone that really doesn't have goals or have any plans to change. But anytime we're focusing on that, it is an opportunity to come back to ourself, because you can't make someone change. You can't make someone evolve. And anytime you're putting your energy on what someone else isn't doing, you are distracting yourself from what you're not doing. So just come back to yourself. Um, we don't need to blame other people for things not changing in our life. Like, you're responsible for the change in your life. Let's stop blaming outside circumstances, whether it be your job, the life you were given, right? By that, I mean like your circumstances, whether it's the economy or the government. Like, can you step back and really just say, okay, what do I need to change? Where do I need to take some self-responsibility? I've definitely had some things come up the past year where I really had to take a good look at myself and see where I was maybe blaming my circumstances or other people for why things were the way they are, or why I hadn't reached certain goals. But at the end of the day, it was just excuses. And I really had to take a good look in the mirror and say, okay, what can I do about this? What can I do to change? How can I stop looking at what other people are doing in a way that is not healthy, right? Because again, like, sometimes we can look at what other people are doing and find it to be inspiring and helpful. So that's what you can just ask yourself. Is observing this person helping me or not helping me, right? So I guess my word of advice this week is to really dive into what it is you really want, and also stop blaming anyone around you or obsessing over what someone isn't doing. Like, it's not about them, it's about you. So make it about you and make your goals, figure out what you want, and what are you going to do next to change it. It's up to you. Nobody's going to do it for you. And I have to remind myself of this constantly. So this is not me pointing the finger. Like, I am absolutely pointing the finger at myself too, because I have to check myself and remind myself constantly. It's my choice. It is. Like, I can't blame anyone else for those daily choices that I make. The things I can control, right? There's always going to be things we can't control, but what can you control? Right? So, hopefully this helps you get back on track and focused, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. I also have just started a new newsletter, so you're welcome to sign up for that. It'll be in the description or comments, depending on where you're watching this, but I do plan on having some content monthly that is exclusive to the newsletter only. So we'll dive in a little deeper there. If you want to subscribe, you're welcome to. We'll have some energy updates and other things that are exclusive to the newsletter. But if you're feeling called to just the 2-week video, that is fine too. I'll see you again. Take care.